Hi, Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you, hour number 2, and joined now by NFL Network Analyst Michael Robinson for his weekly appearance here on One Bills Live, resident member of Bills Mafia. And your own network, Michael, is going to be the primetime host of Buffalo's Week 15 tilt with the Dolphins a week from this Sunday. How spicy is that one?
Very spicy, guys. So first of all, we're the new number 1 seed. I'm excited about that. That's number one. I got to start off by saying congrats on us getting that number 1 seed, and we're going to hold on to it. But to see this game being flexed to Saturday to be on NFL Network, it is awesome. I was already going to be in Seattle for the Thursday night football game in Week 15. Now I'm hoping, and I haven't talked to everybody at NFL Network yet, but I'm going to hopefully I talk to the travel department when I get out there in a little bit. Hopefully I'll be going to that game. It's going to be exciting, man. Can't wait.
Yeah, and it's one of those primetime games. You don't know when it's going to happen. We knew it was because even when the schedule came out, it was TBD. So you knew they were looking at it, and it's going to be an important game.
Of course, it's going to be important. It's going to be for home field advantage. It's going to probably be for the division, all of the marbles. And again, I'm glad we got the baddest man on the planet, Josh Allen. Oh, yeah.
So let's... Before we even get to the Jets, just real quick, from a player perspective, the Dolphins are spending the week out on the West Coast after playing San Fran yesterday. They play at L.A. Chargers this week. Coach McDaniel said, we're staying out here. Then they got to fly back across the country home after that game, which is on West Coast time, as you know, probably getting into Miami late, and then they got to hit the road again on Friday to come up here to play Buffalo on Saturday night. Any jet lag thing to even consider in that? I mean, I know the two teams aren't going to consider that, but is there a lag effect, so to speak?
I wouldn't say that it's a lag effect, but I will say that just watching, and again, I haven't watched the entire game of that San Francisco 49er and Miami Dolphins game from this past weekend, but I would say forget about the jet lag. They better be ready for those pass rushers. They better be ready for Gregory Rousseau and A.J. Epinesa and guys like that. Tremaine Edmonds making a comeback, who I thought had a phenomenal game, and it seemed like every time he got to a tackle, he got to that tackle with aggressiveness and with some authority. So forget about the travel issues. I think they're going to have some Buffalo Bills issues when the Dolphins come into town.
Yeah, and I mentioned this earlier. Now, no question, the Dolphins are playing really good football. I mean, they up until this last game and they met a really good team in San Francisco, albeit most of the game with a backup quarterback. But they made hay offensively against the Steelers, the Lions, the Bears, the Browns, and the Texans. Not really a murderer's row, but nevertheless, I think they struggle with an outstanding defense that they may meet in Buffalo. What do you think happened with Tua yesterday? Because everybody's talking about he did not look like he
was
did.
off yesterday.
Yeah,
Mike.
He looked different than he did in that 5-game winning streak.
Well, again, he was off, and when you spend an entire week having to prepare for a certain team's defense and having to prepare for a guy like a Nick Bosa, and again, I know our guy, our Von Miller type, our Von Miller, he's a little bit hurt, but you still have the Gregory Rousseaus and the Shaq Lawsons and guys like that with Ed Oliver in the middle. But when you have so many guys that you have to worry about, what happens is you got to think about how that Miami Dolphins team is going to have to prepare. Because, see, I believe that in that first matchup, I think it was week 2 or 3 or whatever, I believe in that first matchup that the Miami Heat is what actually beat us. It wasn't the guys on the field. It wasn't the Tyreek Hills. It wasn't the Tours or all of that. It was the Heat, and you're not going to have that in this particular matchup. And I just think that Tua preparing for a guy like Nick Bosa all week and understanding where he was on every single play, I think he was just very aware of the pass rush. And that pass rush threw off Tua's superpower. And Tua's superpower is his timing and anticipation. Yeah. And when you're dealing with an offense that deals in timing and anticipation, if you could put some type of fear in the quarterback's eyes and have him kind of looking at the rush and not looking downfield, it throws off that timing and anticipation. You look at our defense in particular, the Buffalo Bills defense. I just think we got the defensive backs. I think we have the scheme along with the pass rush. I think we have all of the facets to make this a very tough game on Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah. All right. So now let's move ahead here, and let's just talk a little bit of the Bills' run game. James Cook sees his most extensive action. I thought he was really good when they were running that mid-zone scheme there. I mean, he shoots through that hole, and it's an easy 8 yards most of the time with him. I know we've talked to you about how he's a great change of pace in comparison to Motor Singletary. How far can they take this running game, and how much bigger can you make Cook's role going forward here?
Oh, it can be a lot bigger. I mean, I can envision what we call a pony package, or 2 running backs in the game with Devin Singletary and a James Cook in the backfield at the same time with 3 wide receivers. I mean, or you can put 2 wide receivers and Dawson Knox on the field. I mean, just how does the defense defend that? You know what I mean? And so I think as his role continues to expand, as he continues to get success, I mean, this offensive line was moving people off the football. And when you look at the New England Patriots, New England, they're usually stout against the run, and it didn't matter. Again, we moved guys off of the football. And I think the more touches that James Cooks gets, the more speed and acceleration he can put on tape, that's going to force defenses to pay a little bit more of attention to him. And that's when Ken Dorsey can kind of use him as a chess piece in a scheme in a scheme type of a situation to create some matchup opportunities. But every single skill position that you're looking at on this Buffalo Bills team is looking to be explosive. And James Cook is one of those explosive elements.
One of the things we heard, and I mentioned this to Brownie earlier in the show, that during the commentary with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, they were talking about their conversation with Josh Allen about how much more in tune, or how big of steps they have made between Josh Allen and Ken Dorsey about how they're communicating, what they expect of each other. And it seems like when they talked the way they did, that there was more of an adjustment phase that was going on with this Bills offense than we maybe thought was going to happen at the beginning of the season. What do you make of that conversation?
I think that's what good coaches do. You listen to your players, and especially if you got one of those guys, like, one of those 5 or 6 guys that can will a team to a win with just his abilities, his arms, his eyes, his shoulders, all of those things. That's Josh Allen. We have one of those guys. And so when you have one of those guys and you're constantly communicating, especially with a young play caller and Ken Dorsey, and I know he's been with Josh for a while and he's been a part of the organization, but this is his first full year calling plays. And so I think, he has to get information from Josh Allen. Josh Allen has to get information from him. And together, that's how the game plan comes together, because I like the run game. I like to see the offensive line move. I like to see the line of scrimmage move. I'm sure Sean McDermott is in that same realm and that same school of thought. But when you got a guy like Josh Allen, the offense has to revolve around him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we had a great day running the football, but at the end of the day, Josh and his ability is what's going to take us over the top. And I think just knowing that and having that open communication, it makes life easier for everybody involved.
At the same time, it seems as though the Bills are trying to diversify their offense on the fly, Mike. I mean, they are making a concerted effort the last couple of weeks to get their run game in a place where they like it if they have to turn to it, maybe take a little bit of the burden off of Josh. I think they know, if they're going to host playoff games here in Buffalo, the weather gets a little squirrely come late December and January, and you may have to run yourself to a victory in some instances, whether that's Josh or the crew they got in the offensive backfield. I guess what I'm asking is, they took a similar approach last year, and over the final month of the season, the Bills were 2nd or 3rd in the league in rushing the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and they were an unstoppable force in the playoffs. It looks like they're trying to employ that plan here again. Are you seeing some of those same things in what they're trying to get accomplished offensively?
Absolutely, guys, and I'm gonna change gear and flip to who the other AFC team, Kansas City, right? I just think that when you look at what Joe Burrow and that Cincinnati Bengals offense did to Kansas City, they ran the ball for 152 yards. They were able to play big boy football at times. It's not just going out there and running the football for 200 yards. It's just about in meaningful moments, you have to be able to do it and do it when you need to do it and be able to keep that guy and Patrick Mahomes off of the football field. So flip it back to the Buffalo Bills. I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what the Ken Dorsey and this offensive coaching staff is doing. They're just kind of oiling the gears up, making sure they're ready. So when they do meet the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, who will not have a Tyreek Hill. They can play that game where they can slow it down when they need to and limit the opportunities that Patrick Mahomes has to possibly win the game.
So the Bills, they got the first leg of this 3-game stretch under their belt. They beat the Patriots by 2 touchdowns. They've got the Jets coming in this weekend. What do you expect, particularly with Mike White at quarterback? What do you expect this Jet-Bills game to look like Sunday?
Well, again, I know everybody talks about the quarterbacks, but at the end of the day, Robert Saleh and this New York Jets team, they're all about defense. They're all about hitting on defense. They have a great secondary on the back end. I can't wait to see those moments because, again, Sauce Gardner, he doesn't travel, but there will be moments where he's one-on-one with Steph Diggs, and I expect Steph Diggs to take him to school. You know what I mean? Take him to school, learn some lessons on, how to defend a route runner because Steph Diggs, I think will be able to route him up. But they know how to get after the passer. And what scares me about this matchup is Quinnen Williams. That dude is having an all-pro season. He's a guy that's a playmaker at the 3 technique position, which is the outside shade of the guard. He has this ability to split double teams. People always talk about defensive tackles taking on double teams. Well, there's two types of defensive tackles: guys that take on double teams and allow the linebackers to run and hit. Then there's guys like Ed Oliver, Aaron Donald, and Quinnen Williams this particular year where they're able to take on the double teams, split the double teams, and actually make the play. He's a playmaker. So offensively, I think from a running game standpoint, get our double teams ready to be able to double team that guy and double team him. Don't worry about going off to the second level. Make sure you take care of Quinnen Williams, especially in the run game.
All right, and I watched a lot of Jets-Vikings yesterday, Mike, and, Mike White, much like he did last year, he comes in for his first start. He lights it up for 300 yards. They win a football game. Everybody's gaga about Mike White. It's practically like Linsanity with the Knicks like 10 years ago in New York when they're blowing things up in the media. And then he comes out yesterday. Yeah, he throws for 369 yards, but he doesn't have a single touchdown. They go 1 for 6 in the red zone, and he throws a couple of picks. I feel like he is a scripted quarterback. When the play unfolds as it's supposed to, he can make reads, deliver the football, make your offense functional. As soon as you got to go off script with that guy, it's a disaster. He's got no improvisational skills. He's not a second reaction player at all. So what could be the defensive approach for the Bills that would make them effective against Mike White, knowing the improvisational skills more often than not are not there for him?
Well, first and foremost, to that end, what Mike White sees pre-snap needs to be totally different than what he sees post-snap. Just that simple fact right there would force a little bit of hesitation in Mike White. That's number one. Number two, Josh Allen has a lot to do with this. Josh Allen, Ken Dorsey, and this offense has a lot to do with this because for the Jets and Mike White to be effective, they have to play the game a certain way. And throwing the ball 57 times, that ain't the way to do it. I think they want to run the football with James Robinson and company, lean on the run game, be explosive in the passing game on play action passes, and play tough defense. Well, Josh Allen could just score every time they get the football, put up points, and literally talk Mike LaFleur, who is the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets, talk him out of that run game and play action and all of that and get the pass attempts up to close to 60. And that's when Mike White will throw you the football from a Bills defense standpoint.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the real key to this game is confusing Mike White and making sure you score enough points to put some pressure on their team that they got to kind of keep up with you. It's going to be difficult because like you said, the Jets are a really good football team defensively. Mm-hmm. They've got it going on. They got some people that can play. Sauce Gardner, is going to be really good. The guys up front, Quinnen Williams, those guys can get it done. But it's going to be up to you to stay on the field and score and be efficient.
Yep.
And also, when the Jets do have the football, you got to make it hard for Mike White to know where he's going with the football. That's going to be the key, I think, in this game, at least here on a Monday.
Well, thanks for figuring it out for us, Steve.
Right.
I will say this, Mike. Last year, Mike White did play against the Bills, and he threw it 44 times, no touchdowns, 4 picks, and they lost going away 45-17. So I think the magic number, Mike, is anything over 35 pass attempts, and the Bills are probably good, right?
I totally agree with you. Now, and again, when you got that you got this well-oiled machine of an offense with Josh Allen, but conducting it, you always give yourself a chance. And one other note, guys, from this past week's performance, I thought Tre'Davious White is showing promise. He's getting his legs back up underneath him, and he's going to be challenged. Garrett Wilson, first-round pick for the New York Jets again. Trey's not going to travel, I don't think, but in spots, it's going to be a pretty dope matchup. I want to see if Trey has his legs back because that kid is pretty quick.
All right, Mike, thanks as always for joining us. We'll catch up with you next week when hopefully Buffalo's got another one in the win column.
Ain't no hopefully about it, man. We winning the damn thing. Bills Mafia stand all the way up. Let's get it, guys. See you next week.
All right, Mike.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you very much.